kind of in the spirit of all that I've learned from Bill and from Sarah Jane, there's something that I couldn't avoid speaking about tonight, because we are in the Torah portion of Parashat Ekev, and there's lots of things that are going on in Ekev. We see a profound message of people being charged with doing good, and we also see a plea. I think there's really a plea, not just from us to God to watch out for us, but for God, a plea to us to watch out for each other. You see, the text says in the beginning of the chapter, we didn't earn the right to go to the land of Israel, where there would be incredible resources. We did nothing to deserve such a gift. What we read is that the people who are living in the land were engaged in unethical actions, and because of what the Torah says as their wickedness, the land spews them out. And the Israelites were brought into the land after experiencing hardship, trauma, slavery, homelessness. They were able to enter and to build something new, something just, compassionate, and good. And in this Torah portion, in Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 10, it says this: when you have eaten your fill, give thanks to the eternal your God for the good land which God has given you. V'achalta, v'savachta, v'erachta, you will eat, you will be satisfied, and then it says, you will bless. But I don't believe that it should just be a message of thanks, a message of thanksgiving. This line, these few words, you will eat, you'll be satisfied, and then you will bless, becomes the foundation for a series of blessings, which in Jewish tradition is called the grace after meals. Yes, we have a grace, and it's after our meal. It's called Birkat HaMazon, the blessing of gratitude, one says, once we've completed our food. Menachem Mendel of Katz taught that the prayer is a fundamental mitzvah because all people should be capable of feeling grateful that the earth has produced food for them to eat. Now, of course, every faith tradition is going to have thanks offerings for eating, for having the provisions that we need. But why? What's the point? Just to have a feeling of thanksgiving? I think it has more to do with gratitude, not just being thankful. Gratitude has to lead to something else. And I remember reading a sermon from years ago by a very prominent rabbi whose name is Sidney Greenberg. And I share his teachings a lot. He was so thoughtful. And Rabbi Greenberg talked about a student in a synagogue, and that she went to Jewish camp where they recited Birkat HaMazon after every meal, during each and every day of camp. In fact, when I went to camp, we did the same thing, saying Birkat HaMazon, all of those blessings after every meal together. But the student was concerned and offered a challenge to her rabbi. The student was concerned because in the text of Birkat HaMazon, in this grace after meals, it says that we should thank God who feeds the whole world with goodness, with loving kindness, and with tender mercy, and provides all God's creatures whom God has created with enough sustenance. And the girl, as she was saying these words, felt like a hypocrite. She didn't see an alignment. How does God provide for everyone when there's so many who are hungry? And there are so many who are vulnerable in our communities, not in far-off lands, although it's true, not just in the United States, but right here in all of our communities. Rabbi Greenberg wrote something that I was never able to let go of. And of course, he cites the verse, V'achalta v'savachta u've'erachta, you will eat, you will be satisfied, you will bless. And then he explained Jewish values to this girl, Jewish hopes, Jewish responsibilities. He shared statistics of how many in our country and around the world are vulnerable with not enough to eat or not enough healthy, affordable food to eat. And then he said this: He said, every hungry person rebukes us. Every emaciated child chastises us. Every life cut short by hunger accuses us. It's our job, folks, our responsibility to bring God's sovereignty to this world. We are the ones who need to make it happen. It's not God. God has charged us. It's on us. Our responsibility, our task. During these past few years, Homeless Solutions for Boulder County has directed funding to housing development and vouchers for the most chronically homeless and medically compromised on our streets. And I think they have made some incredible progress. I really do. They have got people into more and better long-term housing solutions, and it has been wonderful. But to make progress in one area does not enable us to no longer take care of the most basic, unmet needs of those who are dealing with emergencies and who need immediate shelter and support. Bridge House is one of our community partners, and they initiated an important emergency sheltering pilot program through something that many of us know of, many of us have volunteered at, called Path to Home, where the city provided a temporary site for a few years. Bridge House, I learned, placed 846 people in 3 years in housing alternatives with an average length of stay in shelter for 20 days. Isabel McDevitt is its executive director, and she wrote once that it proved that a welcoming, caring environment with intensive focus on finding non-shelter solutions can yield exemplary outcomes. And that site is no longer available. The city had access to it for a limited amount of time, and they didn't find a place to replace it. And now the city is turning again to houses of worship, places of faith to fill in the gaps. Of course, that's what we do, but it's wrong. It's not. We are supposed to be partners. We have work to do in our county. Many need shelter, meals, and support now, and they will not qualify for housing vouchers, yet they are nevertheless vulnerable on our streets. All the more so in a COVID-19 world. For how many more months are we going to live this way? So we need to balance housing goals and emergency services. Since our buildings are not being used at Har Hashem, we have agreed to make part of the South Building available again to Bridge House to provide shelter to people in their ready-to-work training program. It's going to be, a small number of people, and we've come to an agreement how to minimize risk as best as possible because they have no other place to go. And we partner with Bridge House with the supportive housing initiative of the individuals renting our 2 houses on our property. They are among our strongest community partners fighting homelessness in Boulder, but they need us to partner too. You will eat and have resources. You will be satisfied. God willing, you'll be satisfied, and then will you bless. And how do you bless? It has to be more than saying a prayer. You bless with your words and your deeds. It's time to tell Boulder City Council that it's not an either-or choice of either helping people with long-term affordable housing or to help with emergency support. We need to engage in acts of tzedakah, which isn't charity. Tzedakah does not translate to charity. Charity is a nice thing to do. Tzedakah is an act of justice. It's an act of righteousness, whether it's to Bridge House or EFA or Community Food Share or Mazon, a Jewish response to hunger, or Sister Carmen, or any of these other organizations, or the groups that even Bill has been working with to try and help the unhoused with legal support. We have people on our streets and throughout the entire county with cardboard signs up And whenever we see them, friends, whenever we see them, every hungry person rebukes us. Every person feeling hunger chastises us. Every life cut short by hunger accuses us, just like Rabbi Greenberg taught. You will eat, you'll be satisfied, and you will bless, and you will act. You will not remain indifferent. You will not stand idly by the blood of your neighbor. Friends, it is upon us to share our sense of being satisfied, just satisfied, to help others who have so much less than us. And we have to help our community, which includes our city government, to do its part. But if we're going to call out others to do their part, we have to do our part too. So every teaching is often in honor of others, in honor of Bill Cohen's 80th birthday. Let's get to work, and let's move to the conclusion.